Owen Farrell is on his way to Australia to join up with the British and Irish Lions. Just another quiet day on tour. Welcome to the Quick Tap on the good, the bad and the rugby with me, Graham Simmons. Joined today, I've got three for the price of one. I've got a Lions winner from 2013. I've got the Lions player of the series from 2017. And even more notable than that, we've got one of the leading lights of the Clermont-Auvergne Lunchtime Rummy Club from 2015. Loser picks up the bill, shaves his head, leaves town. It is, of course, Jonathan Fox Davies. Foxy, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, not so bad. How's the rummy these days? Never draw, never wait on an inside straight. That's what my mum always used to say, isn't it?
No, rummy's not too bad, but it's missing those away trips to get the practice in. That's the key.
That's what it is. It's different in France. And we're also, as ever, in the company, of course, of Continental Tyres, the official tyre partner of England Rugby. Whether you're on the rugby field or on the road, you can trust Continental Tyres for exceptional safety, performance and grip. As ever, if you're joining us on YouTube, hit the like button, share any thoughts or comments, and don't forget notification bell for the Good Bad Rugby channel. Look, only one topic of conversation, I guess, to start off with here. But, Foxy, before we get to Owen Farrell, I just want to chuck a bouquet at the luckless Elliot Daly. I think the injury yesterday against the Reds did not look good. Confirmation that he is out of the tour. It is desperate for him. It is a sore loss for the Lions, given his, I don't use the word lightly, unique versatility, not to mention his wagging tail off the pitch as well. I mean, no one's played more minutes on this tour for the Lions. Arguably, few have played better on this tour for the Lions than Elliot Daly. He's going to be missed. It's tough all round.
Oh, look, it's heartbreaking for him, and I'm sure the squad would be devastated to see someone like him go on and off the field. You know, he's a real team man, and the way he was tracking with his performances, he was going to be pushing for a test spot, that's for sure, with his experience over the course of 3 tours. Yeah, look, devastating for him, and I think what he can hold his head up high is how much of a he's given himself a great account of his ability on the park, and he's shown what the caliber player he is, and he should be extremely proud of that.
We wish him well. We wish him well. So look, enter Owen. It's one of those pieces of news that almost feels a bit like a shock, but at the same time, not a surprise at all. It's one of those kind of odd ones, isn't it? I mean, it's Saracen for Saracen, yes, but it certainly isn't like for like, is it? What do you think is the thinking here, Foxy?
Oh, look, I think what Owen brings in is a huge amount of experience. Knows how to win a series. I don't think there's anyone else on tour that does, and I think that competitive streak that Owen's always had will just add to the intensity. Like what you find on Lions tours, training is like no other. Everything goes up another level, and they're probably looking at trying to get like more experience in to help maybe with the leadership squad, and knowing Owen, he'll want to compete as best he can, and he'll want to play. He's probably been frustrated with the year he had at Racing in terms of picking up injuries, not playing as much, and this is an opportunity for him to really stake a claim of showing like he's still that same world-class player that we came accustomed of. He's probably the best player I've played with. I think when I played with him in 2017, he gave me confidence through the clarity. There's like no gray areas with Owen. He gave me confidence to really execute my roles, and I think that's why I was able to play in that tour in 2017, my best rugby in my career, because someone like Owen was in and around giving me confidence. So I think it's a smart addition. Whether or not he's played enough rugby, that's we'll see that. But yeah, no, I think like you said, it's not a shock, but it is, if you get me. There's with Elliot's versatility, do you get the same versatility with bringing Owen in? That's my only question.
Just to pick up on something that you were saying there, Foxy, I mean, his credentials, we know all about his credentials. We don't need to give the man any introduction, but he's not played test rugby for 2 years. He's not played any rugby at all for 2 months. He's come in and he's covering two positions, effectively 10-12. You can't really see him playing anywhere else, where the cupboard looks pretty well stocked, and where those in that cupboard might now be thinking to themselves, hello, what does this mean for us? I mean, what's the reward here? What's the risk?
I think the reward is obviously his experience and the like you said, the other members of the squad, not that they were being complacent, but they were thinking, all right, there's another factor, like, competitive nature. Whenever a new player comes into squad, you see him as a teammate, but if you're vying for a test place, it's almost like another threat. So I think that competitive element is a good thing. I don't. The risk is, does it leave them open in the back three? I don't think so when you look at the amount of back three players they have. So, I think it allows them to, does Owen. One thing I noticed on other tours is, the midweek group needs their direction and leadership, because it's very easy to get those split in camp. And the senior players that have been on tours previously, and the two tours I was in, that understood that maybe they weren't going to play in a test team, but under how important it was for the midweek team to really stay attached and stay, focused in training, not to lose them. So if Owen isn't going to play in the test team, will that experience of just knowing how important the the midweek team and the competition and this training standards is throughout the week, and
Mm.
does that take that pressure off someone like Marrow,
Hmm.
because he'll have full confidence in,
Yep.
Owen will take care of this. He knows what it's about. He's been there
Hmm.
and done it. Where a lot of the squad is their first tours, so I think that might be their thinking. Like you said, he
Mm.
hasn't played much rugby, and it might be a piece of, right, we want him to drive standards in around the environment and,
Yeah.
put other boys under pressure.
Yeah, that sounds eminently plausible to me. I mean, we're discussing this now, Foxy, obviously, as the news has just been confirmed. So we haven't heard as yet from Andy Farrell. We haven't heard from Andy Farrell yet as to what exactly his decision making on this is. As you say, you guess it's that kind of leadership experience, an edge that is uniquely a uniquely Owen Farrell thing. I guess forgive me if I'm playing devil's advocate here for a second. Let me just push you a little further on this. Is there a danger in all of this? A potential danger that all of this might become, outwardly at least, a narrative that's distracting. I don't think it necessarily will inwardly, although it might, but outwardly, it's going to create a little bit of a circus around Owen Farrell, not through his own fault, but just simply because of who he is and who his dad is. Is there a danger of that happening?
Uh, Potentially from external sources. I think the important thing is that, you make sure that, one, the squad are clear on, what their goal is, to win a test series and beat Australia, and then everything else around it isn't, it's not important. And I'm sure
Hmm.
Andy will be able to manage the press and to take the attention away from it, potentially, in terms of allowing Owen to do his job. I
Hmm.
think in 2017, Warren Gatland took a lot of stick personally
Hmm.
from the press, and there was no mention about the playing group. So as a group, we were able to focus on our training, coming together as a team, and competing for a test series. And
Hmm.
Gats managed that extremely well. And I'm sure Andy be looking to, there'll be plans in place of how, questions are answered in press, not to stir it up or anything like that. And look, you're gonna get the obvious heckling. We're in Australia here now, where they love a bit of trash talk. So it's going to be interesting what the perception is of it, of the news. But I think there'll be smart enough people involved to um, keep the boys focused on what's really important.
We've got, Foxy, we've got previews and reviews to get through here in a packed pod, but what we've also got just dropped now is the Lions team to play against the Waratahs on Saturday. Do you know what a Waratah is, by the way?
No, I don't. What is it?
I had to look. I didn't know either. I looked it up last night because I didn't know what the heck's a Waratah. Apparently, it's a plant.
Ah,
It's a crimson flowering plant,
red. Well, obviously it's their badge, isn't it?
which is odd, really, for a rugby team. But anyway, the Lions team who will be taking on the Shrubs on Saturday. We have Hugo Keenan at fullback, gets a start. Good to see him lacing up his boots. We have Mac Hansen and we have Blair Kinghorn, which is true. So the two guys who haven't yet started do start. We have Hugh Jones and Sonny Tuipulotu back in the centre. We have the Northampton pairing of Alex Mitchell and Finn Smith at halfback. Front row, we have Schumann, we have Luke Cowan-Dickey, we have Finlay Beelum. We have Tadhg Beirne and James Ryan in the second row. Tadhg Beirne is captain. Many congratulations to you, Tadhg Beirne. We have Henry Pollock at 6, Josh van der Fleer at 7, and Ben Earl at 8. And the all-important bench, Dan Sheehan, Ellis Genge, Tyke Furlong, Joe McCarthy, Scott Cummings, Jack Morgan goes again, no rest for the wicked, Ben White and Marcus Smith. It's a 6-2 bench, Foxy. Anything in there that A, makes the hair stand up in your back of your neck in excitement, or makes you raise an eyebrow and think, hang on, what's going on there?
Looking forward to that back three. I think it's good to see Blair Kinghorn and Hugo Keane getting their first run out. I think hopefully Blair's getting over the jet lag now and he's good to go. I think he had great form in the Six Nations and obviously with Toulouse, and Mac Hansen is getting better and better as the more game time he's getting. So I think they'll look to play at a good tempo, but
it's a pacey back row, isn't it? Certainly.
Pardon?
It's a pacey back row,
It
isn't
is.
it? Certainly.
I think that's it. They want to play with pace, but what I've noticed the first couple of games, they have stick to the kicking game a fair bit. They're pretty regimented in that way. Even end of yesterday's game, they were able to play. They were playing more territory where you thought they might have played a bit more, but it's obviously looking like they want to go down the set piece route in that test series. But no, the team looks dynamic. The team looks like you said, full of energy in that back row, and the combination of 9 and 10, the way if they can get the tempo that those two were playing, the rhythm that they were playing for Northampton towards the end of the year, that would be it's an exciting team to go up against the Shrubs, as you say.
Let's just keep that between ourselves, just in case there are any Australians listening in. Apologies for that. I suspect, Foxy, and put me wrong if I am wrong, and I often am, I suspect we're not going to see the test team play as a test team before the first test. That's not, if it's the case, it's not unusual with the Lions, is it? Is it your feeling that the majority of the test team may very well play against or feature against the Brumbies on Wednesday, which could well be the toughest game they've got left before the tests, have 10 days off, and the rest will be left to sort of make their case in the Anzac game on the following Saturday? Does that sound right, or is that a bit far-fetched?
My thinking was that the Saturday game is going to be the last Saturday game for the test, is where we see most of that test team, just because rugby teams are very structured in their week and how they plan the training. So I would have thought so the likes of Finn Russell, Jack Conan would be almost feet up now till a week Saturday, and then given a go a week before the test. But I think the way you put it was, I could see that happening as well, but I always like to get a good rhythm in my training and playing. So I was lucky that I was just playing Saturday, so I knew how I structure my week in preparation, and rugby players are creatures of habit. So that's where I see it. They might go a little bit of a mixed team again on Wednesday, and then more like a test team on that Saturday before the first test.
Yeah, the problem, I guess, with that Saturday game is it's a scratch side. We don't know who's going to be in it. It may not be the hit out that Andy Farrell wants. But I see exactly what you're. It's a decision he's going to. Well, we'll find out in due course, but it's a decision he's got to make, isn't it? Either one way or the other, certainly. We're already. It seems strange to say this, Foxy, but we're already halfway through the so-called warm-up games. This tour, blink and you miss it. I was trying to work out last night how many guys I would say at the moment on the form they've showed so far are inked in, or pretty much in all likelihood inked into the starting 15. I came up with only 6. Be interested to hear your thoughts on who you'd add to this or take out of this, whatever. I had Dan Sheehan, Maro Itoje. I think Joe McCarthy put down a marker that's going to be pretty tough to beat from the Force game. Jack Conan, not just because he's the only 8, but he had a really good outing against the Reds. JGP and Russell, which I think everybody had inked in pretty much from the start, and James Lowe. Who have I missed out or put in who I shouldn't have done? And where do you think are the significant areas of debate for Andy Farrell now? Front row, centre? I mean, he's got options, but who in terms of front row, centre, back row?
I think,
what do you think?
Tommy Freeman's, go just slightly off topic. Tommy Freeman's playing himself into that test team. I think he's scoring tries. His work rate and his aerial ability is brilliant. The midfield, I think, Bundiaki's been, I think, his go-to guy. You saw that game in the Welsh game in the Six Nations. It was tight at halftime. Off comes the bench, Bundiaki, and I think his intensity, his leadership's qualities really shone through in that game. And I feel that yesterday he was physical, meters after contact, just a solid guy for someone like Finn Russell to have, just to help him pull the strings. And then
Reminded me of you last night.
I don't know about that. But I think it was just I think it's important that someone like Bundiaki gives Finn Russell confidence. Like I as a centre, I knew that, right, I got to try and give as much information to my 10 as possible to make sure that they have what they know what to do in pulling the strings. And I think the way he does it, he's very well connected around the forwards. He's always seems to be talking. I think he just has the edge in that 12 shirt at the moment. And then it's the makeup of the back row is a key one. I think the line out against Argentina is getting better, but if you go, Tadhg McCarthy, like you said, I would potentially look at playing Tadhg Beirne 6, just to give that set piece option. And he's so dynamic around the field. You don't lose anything in that him playing 6.
He's a real jackal threat, isn't he?
Massive jackal threat. You're right on Jack Colan. I thought he was outstanding yesterday, and I think Porter might be that. His work rate. It's the confidence that Andy Farrell has in that Irish contingent, knowing what they can produce at that right time, and that always gives them an extra edge when it comes to those tight calls.
There's also this kind of preoccupation. I suspect it's more of a media preoccupation, but there's also this preoccupation, Foxy, with the first test, which obviously is important. I mean, you want to hit the ground running. You don't want to go one behind and then have to force yourself to win the next 2 games. But it is a 3-test series, And if we look at tours past, there have been an awful lot of guys who have been extremely influential in tests 2 and 3, who didn't even feature in test 1. So in that sense, are we getting too preoccupied with the first test? And do we need to think a little bit more broadly? And do you think certainly Andy Farrell will be thinking a bit more broadly than just, right, first test, then we'll just pick it up and go from there?
I think you obviously want to hit the ground running in that first test to get that 1-0 lead. But Lions teams always get better the more time they spend together. Like, it's, every start of every tour, there's always sticking moments. There's always errors. There's that building relationships. And I think you look back on all tours, the Lions teams always finish stronger. And so that will give them confidence. But the thing that they have to deal with is that it's one of the first tours that this Lions squad be favourites, and there's an expectancy for them to just win the first test, win the second test, and be done with it. So they're having to manage that expectation, which normally, it doesn't have to be dealt with. So that's another layer on that pressure element. But like you said, there's 3 bites at it, and it's not the be all and end all. But it's always nice to have that 1-0 buffer. And it's the first test is essentially the first time we get to see the best team at that present time. But I remember in 2013, I think it was Dan Lydiard played against the Rebels on the Tuesday night, and he started the second and third test because he was outstanding that thing. So it's making
Corbusiero was the other one, wasn't he? Alex Corbusiero on that tour was the other one.
Exactly, he wasn't in the initial squad.
Correct.
And Warby wasn't even picked in to start in 2017. He's on the bench. So things do change, but I think it's important that he kind of knows what his team looks like, and certain individuals are able to slot in. It's like whether you start with Porter or start with Genge. That's
the equation, isn't it?
Yeah, and the balance of it will be decided by then. And the thing is, it'll soon be here. We'll be talking about the test team very, very quickly now. Well, we already are.
We already are. That's what we're paid for. Let's look back at the Reds game from last night, Foxy. There was a bundle of stuff in there to discuss, but there was one thing, little detail in there that really, really intrigued me, and that was Ben Earl replacing Bundyaki with about 15 minutes to go. And that's kind of been borne out, looking at this team sheet here. He's gone 6-2. Do you think he is playing games with Joe Schmidt? Do you think he's seriously considering the 6-2 option? I mean, presumably he is, or he wouldn't be trying those kind of stuff, or he's just toying with the idea. And if he is doing all of those things, is it a smart move?
I think he might be toying with the idea, but whether or not his hand was forced yesterday with obviously Elliot picking up a bump, Finn Russell came off with ice, and they made changes as well. So I think it's probably after the game last night, they were probably thinking, right, should we give this a proper go, see how it looks like in a game when we're planning it. I think it gives them options, but if with the versatility of certain people in that squad, especially the likes of Tadhg Beirne, Ollie Chasm can play second row and six. Do you need an extra forward on that subs bench? I don't think you do. But I think it's just seeing how it goes and maybe just
He's not famous for going 6-2, is he, Andy Farrell? I think in his Ireland time, I don't think it's usually 5-3. I think.
So yeah, I think he's just maybe having a little flirt with it and see how he goes, and it's good to know because and how things might change, and towards the end of the test series, you might need to call upon and make a call like that, and I do see it. The way the Lions will win this test series is being physical, set piece, and dominant with the kicking game in territory, putting Australia under pressure and, almost suffocating them. And with a 6-2 bench, that would give them the opportunity to go down that avenue. But I don't think they need to, personally.
We will see. Just in terms of yesterday's game against the Reds, I mean, it's now sort of time for the total package delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of the British and Irish Lions. Every week, we try to look at the players who've stepped up and delivered when it mattered most. And this week, against the Reds, Foxy, one or two held up their hands. One or two perhaps have left themselves with a little bit of work to do. You tell me who you think your nominees are for this, but for me, Maro Itoje and Jack Morgan were the two that stood out. I've seen Maro Itoje have some big games. I've been privileged enough to see him have some big games for the under-20s in England, with the Saracens, with Lions, but I thought he was absolutely the complete deal yesterday. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. And Jack Morgan was just simply fabulous. I mean, play with those names and any others you want to. Go ahead, Foxy.
No, like those two outstanding. Maro gave a real mature performance in terms of like dealing with his energy, being in the right place at his time, and he was looking for offloads, winning collisions, stealing line-out ball. Exactly what you want from your leader. He was
handled the referee well as well, I thought.
Yeah, he was smart, and he's that maturity over the last, I think, 18 months has just taken him to another level, and he seems to be really peaking at the right time for this test series, and he would be, happy with his performance, but like knowing the guy, he knows he can probably deliver more again. He'd be looking at areas where he can give more. Jack Morgan, outstanding, and he was outstanding in the Six Nations behind a pack that was probably struggling. And now that he has the ability to be on front football with world-class players around him, that's the thing, when you're in an environment that's, top of the game, those players will go to another level. And Jack is incredible over the ball, dynamic in the contact area, and he's just a smart rugby player as well. Yeah, he reads the game really well. He does pick and choose his moments very smartly, and he made a great marker. But I loved Jack Conan yesterday. I thought he was what you expect from him: his physicality, his carrying work. But there
lovely
was
hands.
But there was lovely hands for a couple of tries, and just the work rate off the ball. He was putting the kicker under pressure. When to win a Test series, the players have to go over and above. They have to give more than what's expected of him. And Jack Conan probably isn't expected to kick pressure on an outside half, or put a nice little touch in for a try in the corner. But he's delivering that, and for me, I was outstanding. So those are the three. I agree with you about Maro and Jack, but
Well, look, right, we need to pick one player here, Foxy. I'm going to leave this down to you. Someone who not only delivered on the field, but also lifted the entire team. Come on, go with
I
one if
give
you
Jack
can.
Cohn it then. I think he was. Yeah, I think he was outstanding, and the other two got the plaudits. So I'm going to give Jack Conan his thing. Although it's like the one Welshman on tour that I should be flying the flag for, but Jack's doing it finely himself.
It was great to see Jack Morgan pull on a red shirt and actually win a game of rugby.
No, that's too soon. Still, that's too soon.
I don't know when the last time that happened for him.
I think it's when he played for the Scarlets, was it?
Look, it's all about teamwork, speed and precision for DHL, working behind the scenes so the Lions can fire on game day. And Jack Conan, you are the DHL total package. Folks, we've got a big weekend coming up. I mean, the Lions Waratahs, obviously, as we have been discussing. We've also got Australia. That's on Saturday. On a Sunday, we've got Australia playing Fiji in Newcastle, 4:30 start for Sparrows amongst us. Here's a thought, Foxy, just see what you think about it. Which camp would you rather be in right now? And I'm not talking about the yellow and the red. I'm talking about a position where you're in a squad, Australia, who have been together for a while, understand the coach, everybody's on the same page as everybody else, everybody knows everybody else. They played together on a tour last year, so they're pretty cohesive, but they've only got one warm-up game before the test. Or would you rather be in a camp that is still coming together, still trying to sort of get its cohesion together, still, working things out a little bit on the pitch, but is doing it almost day in, day out, it seems, at the moment, with match after match after match, and will turn up battle-hardened, ready. Of those two which one would you rather be in?
I would rather be in the camp that's getting more time in the middle together, almost in that bubble, playing every other week, every other day, it feels like.
It does feel like that, doesn't it?
And, for me, I think with the quality that group has as well, like on paper, the two squads, there's only one squad with the strength that, the Lions have the strongest squad, no doubt. But obviously the difficult thing is bringing all those four nations together quickly. And I think the way they're tracking, I've said tracking quite a few times, but I think they're getting better and better. Yes, there's still mistakes, but the coaches will almost be happy with this. The language I'm hearing is that, setting a new standard. What you've done previously is not good enough, and every other time there's another opportunity to put a marker down. So with the regularity, with how the games are so regular, then I think the standards of this team is just going to go up and up.
That's the interesting thing. I mean, I was going to come on to this just to wrap it up a bit here, Foxy, but there is a clear pattern developing here over the first three games, and just from a statistical point of view, which I guess you'd kind of expect, as you said, the Lions grow into a tour. But if you look at the stats so far, Lions' points difference in the three games that they've played so far is plus 83. Their first half is plus 12. Their second half is plus 71, which is a marked difference, obviously, between the two. Now, does that suggest to you, it could be a combination of things or just one of those things, that they're fitter and stronger than the guys they've played so far? Do they just get more cohesive and better as they spend time together and the game goes on? Or the bench potentially does come on and make a colossal difference? Are those the kind of things that you're looking at? And which of those factors might be the most relevant come the test series?
I think it's a combination of three, definitely. But I think the most important one will be that quality off the bench. I think it's the standard of the 23 they could pick could be an extremely strong one, but they'll definitely have the fitness. They would make sure that everyone's in a good place coming in. The ones that were in the camp in Portugal would have gained that physical preparation aspect, but then the others who were playing in the finals rugby would be playing at an elite standard. So that competitive edge they'll have going in, because the Australian group, like you said, one warm-up game against a Fiji team Will it be as the strongest one they could possibly get? I don't know. I haven't seen the squad, but I think it gives them.
And a very different team to the Lions. I mean, you've got to prepare for that game against Fiji in a very different way, you'd suspect, to how you'd prepare your team to play against the Lions team.
Oh,
Wouldn't you?
I think it's chalk and cheese, and I don't see, if I'm not, but I think if I was the Lions coach, I'd be just going down that set piece, like I said, pressure, making them. I don't see the Australian 9 and 10 having the game control that the Lions 9 and 10 have, and if we can play a territory game, put them under pressure, I don't see them able to exit cleanly. I think it'll create more opportunity for the Lions to get in the game. So I think going back to your question, I think combination of the three, but that bench, coming on at 60 minutes just to provide more energy. If Ben Earl is on the bench, him coming on with how dynamic he is, that's such added. Or Alex Genge or Porter, this is, they're starting test players, and to have the luxury of them on the bench is something that you don't normally get.
Foxy, it's been fantastic to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for all of your input. Enjoy the game on Saturday. We'll talk again, I think, after the game.
Yep.
Straight after the game on the final whistle on Saturday lunchtime. I'll look forward to that. But thanks for offering us your thoughts today. Pleasure to catch up with you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Continental Tyres, the official tyre partner to England Rugby. Remember, if you're looking for an award-winning tyre that can keep up with your every move, look no further than Continental Tyres. Thanks to you as well for tuning in. The QT will be back, as I said, on Saturday with Foxy to have a look at the Waratahs game. Do catch up if you haven't already done so with the boys talking to Conor Murray earlier this week. Parental warning, it did turn into an orgy at one point. That's, I think, is just two countries separated by a common language. I think that was all it was, so don't get too excited or worried. But in the meantime, thanks for your company. Foxy, see you Saturday, and be well, everybody. Take care.